Welcome to Creative Glory, the podcast, where we talk about faith, family, entrepreneurship, and honestly, a little bit of everything in between. From testimonies with guests to funny stories with our family to what not to do. Join us, Brit and Anthony, and our family on this journey called life as we keep Jesus first, grow with our family, and build our businesses.
You're going to say welcome.
You just said it. Welcome back to another episode. I'm Anthony.
And I am Brit.
And we are Creative Glory. It's April.
Yep.
March Madness just ended.
It's still March Madness. Well, no, actually, it just ended, yeah.
It ended.
It
We have
ended
champions.
first week of
We have
April.
champions.
Yeah.
Just want to come on here real quick and talk about
Sports and lessons that you can learn from playing sports. I played competitively basketball growing up. Anthony played lacrosse, soccer, and basketball.
I played lacrosse for like a month before I moved.
Oh,
I
okay.
played soccer. I played basketball.
We both played sports. That was what the main thing we had in common was basketball when we met and were talking. That was actually our first date.
I beat her.
Nope.
Well,
He thinks he did, but
I absolutely did.
okay. I'll let you think that.
Choices were beat me or marry you.
Anyways, as I was doing a lot of the gift boxes and crocheting for shawls, instead of watching just TV or just listening to sermons, which I did a lot of actually, I so enjoyed watching March Madness and watching all of the basketball teams. Last year, I think, is the first year that I really started because LSU, Kim Mulkey, got the head coaching job at LSU, and I watched her growing up. I have her book. She's such a competitive player, and she's from Louisiana, and so I followed her career, and when she moved to LSU, I'm like, even better. Now she's coaching local. Well, now we're in North Carolina, but like it's from our home. And so I'm like, we have someone to root for. And LSU was like deemed to be the underdogs really last year. Like they weren't going to win it. Even though they had a lot of good, talented players on their team, they weren't projected to win the whole thing.
Well, you have a mesh group of basically portals. They all entered into the transfer portal. So
Yeah.
nobody was really solidified as a team.
Yeah, it was only her second year coaching. And usually when a coach comes over to a new team, it's building years for a few years before you get that consistency to build championship teams. However, as it built my interest to start watching basketball again. I haven't watched it that much since I played.
It'd be the only thing on in the background.
Yeah, but I didn't really like get engaged in watching the teams. Well, I started watching LSU. Then I started watching Iowa because of Caitlin Clark. She's a phenomenal player to watch play basketball. And then not just her, like the Paige Beckers. I've always loved UConn. UConn's one of my favorite teams growing up. They were the standard for women's basketball. Coach Gina Ariema does, I just believe, in his outstanding job of coaching and builds championship teams. And as a basketball player growing up, that's where you want to go play. But anyways, I started watching again, and I watched the teams and followed their stories. I feel like if you hear the backstory of someone and what they've gone through to get to where they are, you're rooting for them, right? You're championing them on. And so as I watched the stories and followed them last year, that's the first year I started watching more than just one team. I started with LSU, then Iowa, then all these teams in the portal, in the NCAA. But this year, since I watched some of the teams last year and got to know their stories, the backstories, I really started engaging in the games this year. Virginia Tech, NC State, we started going to some local games. It was so fun, the men's and the women's.
We've been going to the men's, but
Yeah.
this was the first year that we actually went to the women's.
Yeah.
And the venue where they play at, to be honest, is way better. PNC Arena is huge. That's
Yeah.
where the men play.
Yeah.
And then Reynolds Stadium, or Coliseum, I think is what it's called, where the women play. It's smaller,
Mm-hmm.
so when it's loud, and you can feel it.
Yeah.
Like when the men's is loud, it's not as hyped up, but with the women's, because I was like, I don't know how loud this is going to be. Like, you just sit back, kind of relax. But no, it was It was loud. It was great.
They have the best fans. I grew up watching Duke for men's. Duke was the team that I grew up watching. Did you too? Yeah. And anyways, that was the team that standing for the men's. Coach K.
Okay.
Well, when Coach K retired, honestly, I was like, I said, well, I'm not solely on Duke anymore. I kind of like all the North Carolina teams. And what's interesting is I feel like not being from North Carolina, I'm not like a diehard. Like here, it's what UNC, NC State, Duke, and even Wake Forest. They're all. It's like a hub of colleges right here of basketball teams that are really good, and you either love one and hate all the others, or vice versa. And I kind of was rooting for all of the North Carolina teams this year. It was really fun to watch them. I just local teams. Woo!
Yeah, but as far as women's go, it's way more ACC teams than anything.
Yeah, but the women's this year, it's just that it's been on another level.
I think. Well, my biggest issue is the whole entire men's is halves.
Yeah.
Women's is quarters. The men's could be so much better if they were to break them down into quarters instead of having halves. And I've had this discussion with everybody that I've talked to. The only problem is NCAA would wind up losing out money because of the advertising from the timeouts. And the whole reason that they brought in the halves was because they thought that it would be more competitive, it would draw more attention. And it's very lackadaisical. Like,
that's like not competitive to me at all. I feel like you at least have a marker at the end of each quarter. You're like, okay, 1 quarter down, I got 3 more to go. Like in women's, and with the men's, it's like this quarter's going on forever.
It's the start of the third. It's the start of the second.
Yeah. I still see it in quarters though. Once they get to like the 10-minute mark, I'm like, okay, first quarter's down.
I still don't. It's the women's game also have been way higher scoring.
They've been way better. It's just I think the women's have always been competitive because I did grow up watching UConn, but they didn't get as much coverage as they do now, and especially with NIL. I mean, that just opened the door really for women's sports, I believe.
I think it's gained more traction because as far as the men's go, like I said, it's become, you'll have scores that are like 40 to 50.
It's because they're really good at defense.
No, they're not. They don't box out at all.
That's true. We went to one of the games. I won't even say what team. I was like, why aren't you boxing out? None of you. But some of the women's this year, one of the games I was watching, I'm like, if you would just box out, y'all would win the game. If you would just box out.
Every year it reminds me of how you go from high school, you learn fundamentals, you box out, rebound, push them out of the box, put your butt into it, back them up. No. Every year we watch NCAA, we watch March Madness, and you will have one person down there getting a rebound. Everybody else has Steph Curry. They're out on the perimeter. Yeah, it's not. It to me is just aggravating.
Well, I get the most aggravated when, it was LSU. I'll call them out. It was years ago. We went to an LSU men's game, and your friend actually coaches on the LSU team, right?
He's an assistant coach.
Yeah, a guy Anthony grew up playing with.
He played for him 2006, baby.
Yeah, but we were watching them years ago, and I just remember they didn't hustle. It's like they had taken muscle relaxers and played basketball, because I've done that before. It was slow motion. I'm like, oh my gosh. It was the most boring. It was a terrible game.
On both sides.
On both sides. The whole game was terrible. And so what I really liked about this year, especially some of the women's games, I watched almost all of the NCAA tournament, was the fast-paced intensity of which they played. It's so fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And actually, as much as I love watching people be aggressive on defense, I love offense. And I love seeing good shooters, good passing. Passing was one of my favorite things to do in basketball. And I remember Dad would fuss at me sometimes. He's like, you need to shoot the ball more. Because I was a shooter my freshman and sophomore year, but then the guard graduated, so I had to be a guard. And I remember I played AAU travel ball for 6 years. That summer going into going to have to be a guard, I actually broke my nose and shattered this bone right here. Yep, and so I have a plate right there. But I had to wear a face mask. no one wore face masks then. And my dad bought me one and like sawed it to where it would fit my face. And to protect my nose, because I ended up going back after surgery, going back on the court just, 3 weeks later. I didn't know how to handle the ball that well without looking down at it with like peripheral vision, right? You look here and you can see down here. Well, with a face mask, you can't see anything below you or above you. It's like here and here. And I remember wearing that. I had to learn how to handle the ball. So kind of it was a blessing in disguise, because by the time I got to my junior year, I at least learned how to handle the ball a lot better and learned to play that guard position, because I didn't have a choice. If I wanted to play AAU ball and even be on the court, I had to learn how to handle the ball.
Yeah, you're trying to be Rick Hamilton.
I was.
You were not. You were trying to be.
I know. Was trying. I thought I was going pro. That was the dream, man. I would work out 4 to 6 hours a day, but which goes right into like learning. We're talking about lessons we learned from sports. I think for me, one of the biggest things I took away from playing sports was discipline, and how if you want something bad enough, you're willing to put in the work. And the scripture, which we didn't even get to today, was about James 1:8.
Yep, James 1:8, which says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways.
Yeah, I think that when I was the best in my sport is when I was focused and unstable. Unstable. When I was focused and stable. When I let other things, affect me, whether it was family things that were going on or pressures with school, because I just had to be trying to be president of every club because I didn't want to be second place.
Overachiever.
I was definitely an overachiever. And only because I didn't want to let people down, and it's almost like that was my identity, was what I achieved. And looking back now, I'm like, man, I could have saved myself some time, because it did not help me in college. It didn't help me get more scholarship money, which I thought that's what they told me it would if I was, I had more things that I was involved in. It didn't help any of that. But I think that I completely lost my train of thought. I looked at that paper down there, and I'm wondering why the kids threw paper on the floor.
It wasn't the kids. That was me.
Oh, okay, Anthony.
I just threw it on the floor because you could see it.
I'm like, it's so messy.
Yeah, I didn't want it on my desk. My desk is clean. I like my desk to be almost empty.
But the biggest thing for me would be the discipline and the focus I learned from playing sports, and how, again, if you want something bad enough, you're willing to put in the work. I wanted to go to college, get a scholarship, and be a professional athlete. And so I played and practiced the fundamentals. My dad was very big on the fundamentals, so I would do that all the time. But along with that, you have to know when to rest too. I didn't do the latter.
We never rested. As soon as we got off the school bus, we go ahead and go to the church and play basketball.
Yeah.
Or we go to Daniel's house. We played basketball all the time. We got to the point to where our bus driver and the screen would just drop us off at the basketball court. And we knew because we're all boys, when streetlights come on, it's time to go home. But
I found out where I was. It just came back in my head. Mental focus.
there's pills for that. She forgets to take them.
We did have memory pills years ago, and I would forget to take the memory pills because I forgot where I put them. Caitlin Clark, when I talked about, the scripture says a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways, I think one of the biggest things I appreciate about her game, no matter how much I was listening to a commentator, was Andrea Carter, I think. She was saying that no matter how much pressure and the publicity that she got this year and the criticism, and the more you're in the spotlights, obviously you're going to draw more haters. She actually performed better, and her stats went up than the previous year. Even though there was more pressure, there was more distractions, there was more opportunities, and more media following her around everywhere. And the spotlight, she really was kind of like in a glass house this year. It was her senior year at Iowa. What I admire about that is she stayed focused. She stayed true to the thing that got her there in the first place, was basketball, to the fundamentals, to discipline, to staying in the gym, and not letting the noise of the outside world distract her. So she wasn't unstable in all her ways because she stayed focused. And I think that we could all learn that, you know?
Yeah, but how many people want what she has but not willing to actually do what she did?
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it now in the league when I have people talking about it. You can see the jealousy from the amount of attention that she's getting opposed to how much somebody else has gotten, whether or not they're a better player. It's just the attention that she's drawing into her. You're going to get positive and negative.
Mm-hmm.
Whole point is right now, she's senior year. I'm not sneezing. It's just not to pay attention to any of it.
Yeah.
Block all of it out.
And it's your mindset. Instead of seeing it as pressure, she sees it as I get the privilege of being able to be a role model to these children, to kids everywhere. Just like Maya Moore was to her. She grew up watching Maya Moore. I grew up watching Maya Moore. Diana Taurasi also was like the number one person I grew up watching in my time. But it's just, anyway, so when mine was on basketball, we thought we'd do a short little podcast about that because just thinking about the leadership, the lessons I learned, and teamwork. I think that's why I so enjoyed basketball as opposed to, I didn't play a sport where it was just me. I know some people play, what is it, golf, it's kind of on you, or you doing teams, I don't know. It depends. What are some sports? Racing, track?
I mean, racing is a team.
I mean, there's, okay, well, some sports where it's just you, so the pressure's all on you. I played where if you lost as a team, everybody loses, right? Basketball. If one man makes a mistake, really it's on the whole team. It's not just one person. I like the fact that I learned
accountability.
That was the word I was looking for. I'm like, what's the word for that?
you learn how to work in a team. You learn leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You learn how to follow, but you learn how to take accountability.
Yeah.
And that's something now that in the pros and even in college ball, you still see selfish people who can't take accountability for what they did or for everything.
Or you want to do it all yourself. You think that I'm the best one on the team. I want to do it all myself. And again, going back to the Iowa team, Caitlin Clark said, it's not just me. I can't win by myself. As great as she is, which I think, her offense is the best offense that we've seen.
Yeah, but without defensive players like Gabby.
Yeah.
I mean, you have lockdown defensive players in there who don't really get the spotlight, but they don't care.
No.
That team is.
And Kate Martin and Hannah Stolke, she did amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the whole team is pretty close together.
Yeah.
It's not one person over the other. One person may get,
And not being jealous if one gets more credit than the other.
Yeah.
It's like, know your role and play your role. That's kind of in life too, and in the body of Christ. What is your lane?
Well, it's not letting your ego get the best of you.
Yeah.
A lot of times whenever you start getting, if you started getting all the attention, nobody else on the team, and somebody's like, well, I play defense on the hardest player. I locked them down. They had 5 points. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, she scored 30. Okay, I did my role. I'm a role player. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I can shoot the ball. All of them girls can shoot from outside, but they can't shoot on the run like Caitlin does. They can't get that space from stepping back.
Mm-hmm.
And also, whenever she goes to drive, they know that she has that step back, but she can also drive. So the biggest mistake LSU made was every time that she made a pass and she looked like she was going to drive it, she would step back. And as soon as she would step back, you would see 2 or 3 players starting to come out to try to guard her, which is dumb. And every single time Kate would go backdoor.
Yeah.
So she has 12, 13 assists in that game, all from the same exact move and everybody doing the same exact thing.
Yep, she hit the record this year of the all-time leading scorer and in all of NCAA basketball, as well as assist this year. The most assists. I think it might have been all-time. I don't know if it was all-time for assists, but I think it's amazing. And she didn't use her COVID year. She had another year. She could have came back. She didn't use her COVID year. But she's at a place where she's ready for that next,
I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. So, me, if I knew that, look, I've made it twice. There's still players who are, whether they're a junior or a senior, and they still have that 5th year eligibility. If she comes back, she'll be ridiculed way more for the simple fact that, she's trying to pad her stats. with more points, more assists. When me, I'd be like, don't even count any of these. I could care less. I want to try winning a championship. That's what I want. I don't care about the stats. I don't care. Put me down for 0 points every single game. It means nothing to me. But I'd try to win a national championship.
Yeah.
But she also has the deal with Ice Cube, who's trying to get her to go play in the Big Three, $5 million.
Yeah.
You're in your early 20s.
You might want to go
$5
pro
million?
into the next level before you get injured. You got to think about that with athletes.
That's why
when you're working out that much, that's a lot of wear and tear on your body.
That's why a lot of football players do that. They wind up leaving early. Whether they start feeling kind of like, oh man, my joints don't have much time. The average duration of a professional football player, I do believe, is 3 years.
Oh, that was 6.
Football.
Oh.
Football is 3, and I think NBA is 5. It's like 4.5 or 5.
Wow.
That's it. So you mean to tell me, like, when you're young and you're in your prime, I'm going to focus on family. How do I do that? I need to make money. It was a 3 to 5 year plan right there. Work my butt off, take that money, save it, invest it, live off of it, see what I can make of it. If it goes even longer than that, you do go, 10 years. Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
But learning discipline, teamwork, adversity.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Paige Beckers. The fact that she came in, got freshman. No, she got player of the year, national player of the year, her freshman year. She was the number 1 recruit coming out of high school. And Caitlin Clark in that same class was number 4.
It was all of them. All of them came. So Angel Reese, Cardoza, Paige, Caitlin, what's her name? Caitlin Clark and Sanford. Bob. Is it Buckley?
Hey, Buckley. She's the god sister of Stephen Curry.
Stephen Curry?
Stephen Curry.
It's Steph Curry.
Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Cameron Brink. She's
Brink.
phenomenal.
That's what it was.
She got so many blocks. It's like she just watched where the ball went. Bloop.
I noticed how tall she was.
How tall is she?
6. She's a little bit shorter than Cardoza.
Wow.
Cardoza's what, 6'7"? I think she's 6'5".
Well, the draft's coming up, but they were all in that class, and it's just, wow, that class. But Paige Beckers got injured.
Mm-hmm.
She first hurt her MCL?
She tore her ACL.
ACL. She had 2 injuries. I didn't know she had 2 injuries back to back. She first got injured, and then she went out in just a pickup game before her sophomore season.
And she broke her ankle?
The ACL. It's all having to do with the knee.
I thought the first one.
One of them was one side of it, so it was this side, and the other one was like the ACL, the back side of it. It was one part of her knee. So, but anyways, the fact that
I knew they were back to back.
She went through that adversity, it was at the height of everyone's talking about Paige Beckers and all this, and now she just disappears, right? I was looking forward to her playing that next year, and she was gone. Well, she disciplined, worked out, and stayed in the gym, stayed positive, and overcame it. And then that team, UConn had 5 or 6 injuries. Great players that scored, I think, contributed 30 points a game to UConn. And they still made it to the Final Four. That's amazing. Aaliyah Edwards. Was Aaliyah Edwards?
Yeah.
She was really good.
Is that her center?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's declared for the draft, too.
Yep.
Can you tell we've been watching a lot of basketball?
Well,
But
you have players who get injured, and you have all that talk around them where they're like, "Oh, that's career ending. Such and such had this, and look what happened. Such and such had this. He tore his knee." Like the most heartbreaking one had to have been Derrick Rose. He was a phenomenal, just blowout player. Played Chicago, and just watching him, like explosiveness. He had no kneecaps. He would jump over the rim, and he just looked like he floated, like the way that he had played.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't look like he put any effort into it. Dribbling the ball, shooting it. He worked on his shot afterwards, but he completely messed his knee up.
Wow.
Or his ankle. And they were telling him, you have surgery. It's over with. He had surgery. He was still playing. He took some time off. They traded him, but it was.
It's a mental game too, though. Like when I got injured with my back my sophomore year, I went to the doctor and I had. Well, we didn't know. My dad. I love you, Dad. Dad told me I needed to be more disciplined and start working harder, but I was slow. I was having a lot of pain in my back, and I just wasn't running as fast. When you injure your back, that affects your legs. It affects everything.
Yeah.
It's your core. Well, I found out by the end of the year, in one of the games I was playing towards the end of that season, I was dribbling up the court, and all of a sudden my back completely just locked. I couldn't move anything. I just stood there, and we went to the doctor. I had 4 fractures in my back. I had been playing the entire year on fractures, and I was wondering why I was in so much pain. I mean, they took me to the chiropractor, didn't do any x-rays, tried to crack my back. He probably cracked more fractures in my back. But the last time I went to the doctor was my senior year, because we thought it healed right. We rested my back. I went back again, had more fractures, and I had a slipped disc in my lower back. Well, it was the end of the season. I went to the doctor because I still wanted to play college ball. I want to get back in shape. I'm like, I can do this. When he told me that if you keep playing the way that you're playing, I would take charges all the time, dab on the floor, whatever, you could be paralyzed. Essentially, if I kept fracturing my back over and over and over again, he said, you have the back of a linebacker, like an offensive linebacker. And because he said they're so big, they don't feel it because, they're constantly getting hit and they have so many muscles around their back. I was not. I was 140 pounds. Well,
Same thing with powerlifters. They have hairline fractures all throughout.
Well.
And, some can't even tell. It's just aches and pains.
Yeah, they can't tell because they have so much muscle built up around it. And when he told me that I could potentially be paralyzed if I didn't stop, it's like even though I went and coached as an assistant coach that fall for a Christian school, for a former boys high school coach, that was our coach, I was working out after we would coach. I was going to be the assistant, and he was going to train me after so I can at least try to walk on at our local college. That was stuck in my head. I could be paralyzed. And it's such a simple word, but it was a mental thing. I didn't overcome that mental thing. I just kept having so much pain, and it was so in my head that every time that I thought to get hit, I kept thinking I was going to get paralyzed. And to me, it wasn't worth it to be paralyzed for the rest of my life. And so I just quit playing. And anyways, but I just am amazed that really in anything in life, to overcome adversity, you have to have mental focus. Your mind has to be stable. You have to have what's not the word I'm looking for? What's the word for it? Like mental toughness. Like you've got to be your mind game can either help you in life or completely take you down the wrong path and sabotage you.
You have to watch who you're hanging out with or who you have around you during those times. Because even if your willpower, your mental strength, it's strong, it's not strong all the time. You have times where doubt creeps in. You have times where you're actually just like, I don't know if I can do this. Mm-hmm. You're starting to have that kind of come along, and you just have to have somebody there. So, you got this. And I know that a sense of community is also organized sports, and don't do organized sports. So that's what a big factor is into we did a Spartan race this last weekend.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was great. It was in Charlotte. It wasn't very hilly. It was nice.
Yeah.
It was cooler in the morning, but we went off at 10:30, so it was mid-50s degrees.
Yeah. It was cold here that day.
I mean,
we were only 2 hours away.
We were there at 8 o'clock, and it was 40, and we're like, oh man, this is going to be amazing, can't wait. But you have the anxiety that's just sitting there because you're like, all right, wavelength. All right, I'm 10:30, 10:15, you got to get in line, and you're just sitting there. And then once they start the chant and stuff with it, you're like, all right, man, we got this, let's go. And we had a group with us, but the first time we did it, we had 4 people. The second time we did it, it was just me and Juan. But we wind up, along the way, picked up 3 other people.
Yeah.
And we just did it as a group. It's a sense of community with them. Whenever you're out there, age, gender, ethnicity, nothing matters.
Yeah.
The one thing that does is completing it. You help people on some of the obstacles. You're not going to be perfect at all of them. There's one of them that I really struggle with, and then one of them is just, it's a nightmare location every time they put it, and really slippery. But the sense of community with it, and people get addicted to that, and whenever they get addicted to that, then everything starts to get a little bit better,
Okay.
and they start focusing more on, okay, well, I want to get better at this, and let me start working out, let me start doing this. But along the entire way, if you're resting, or if you see somebody resting, or if you're just like taking a breather, because depending on if you're doing a 5K, 10, 21, 50K, like it gets hot.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's 20 degrees outside, it gets hot. But if you rest, every single body, almost everybody who walks past you is asking, yo, you all right? You okay? You got this, come on. Some people literally take you and just pick you up and just start walking with you like, yo, we're on mile 7, like we're almost there, let's go. And that to people becomes very addictive.
Well, positive encouragement. I mean, and
It's like-mindedness.
yeah.
I saw that you completed it. Like I'm in way better shape than you are. You're way faster than I am at this. Like, how do you do that? Like, let's keep in touch. Where do you live? Where do you work out? Do you have a group of people that you work out with? And then you become almost like a family. And then you start seeing a lot of people at these events that you've seen at other events. And that's all that it is. It's just a family reunion of being muddy.
Anthony signed me up for it, huh?
You and the kids.
And we're gonna do it in November.
Yeah.
Who's gonna do it for me in June? I'm like, that's the hottest time of the year.
So June is Fayetteville. We are doing that. We're going for trifecta this year. So my goal is, we've already done the super.
Mm-hmm.
Sprint is going to be in Fayetteville. It's a 5K. It's an hour away. So that's going to be on a Sunday because it's a trifecta weekend. And then goal is November to run 5K with you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do the kids, sign them up.
Yeah.
And they have a half mile, 1 mile, and a mile and a half. But I want to do the 21K, the Beast. It'll be that Saturday. That's a goal me, PD, and Mikey have, so we can get a trifecta. So we're going to run the Beast on Saturday, and then Sunday 5K, and then I don't know if I want to do the mile for all the kids.
Do a half
That's what I'm
mile.
thinking. No, half mile is short. I don't think you realize how short it is.
Is it a half mile to the mailbox? We go there a lot.
That ain't a half mile.
Actually, no, it's almost exactly a mile, almost 0.9, from here all the way around the neighborhood back to here.
That's good enough.
Yeah.
Because I got to start doing 12 of those laps.
Yeah, well, it's like 0.9. But I think that's all we wanted to cover today.
Yeah.
Just we told more stories and talked about stats more than we did leadership lessons. But
That's fine.
I guess the biggest takeaway, I think, in this season and with the noise of social media and people's opinions, you can find them everywhere. I think mental toughness is what's needed in this season, and a double-minded man, like we said, is unstable in all of his ways. Being able to get focused on, number one, what are you called to do in this season? No, the season you're in, what are you called to do in this season?
Sleep.
What's a priority to you?
Sleep.
But also, stay in your lane. If you kind of got a sense of this is what an overall calling, there will be different assignments in different seasons and different facets of your giftings and callings, but don't try to step outside your authority. Don't try to step outside of your sphere of influence of what you're not called to. There's protection in staying under the covering of the grace on your life. I believe that, my grace is really the prophetic, right? Saying the prophetic, it has to do with families, it has to do with children, and it has to do with creativity and business. That's kind of like my lane. And anytime I've tried to step outside of that, I've got a rude awakening and gotten some, unnecessary warfare if we want to go the spiritual side of it. If we want to go the practical side of it, just circumstances that are completely unnecessary if I would have just said no and stayed in what God's asking me to do instead of saying yes to everybody else just because I wanted to people please. So,
With knowing what you want,
yes,
what you're willing to do. Take people's opinions on who have what you want or they're where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you shouldn't take people's advice who's never done it.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
well, if they have fruit in their life, like if they've done it and they have no fruit.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. I've been divorced 500 times. Let me tell you how to keep your marriage. No.
No.
How about you tell me what you did and I'll do the opposite. But yeah, just be wary of the people that you have around you. Make sure that you're surrounded by people who encourage you but push you.
Mm-hmm.
Get you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, this is a season of stretching and for sure out of your comfort zone. You can be in your calling and completely out of your comfort zone, and that's actually where you should be the whole time. It's not going to feel comfortable.
I don't know where I'm at half the time. I think I got amnesia, but it'll be all right.
Well, pray for us as we prepare for, or Anthony prepares for the second part of the Spartan race, trifecta. And the second one, am I prepared for November? We should have time, but that's where discipline and focus is going to come in and staying consistent. That's what I'm learning in this season. I have lacked. I was very disciplined and consistent as a child in sports, and then all of a sudden it just went away when I became a mom.
So the people we've been working out with, it's been a learning curve for me, massive learning curve. Because I think working out, like, my heart's going to beat out of my neck. But I can't even breathe at the end of it. That's what working out is, and that is clearly not what it is. He's way more focused on recovery, and that's where I struggle, because he wants to keep 3 zones of your heart. He wants to keep it in a certain zone for your heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
I go past it, and then he yells, and so then I have to drop it back down. And then I feel like I'm not doing anything. And then I'll try to sneak something in. And then he sees the monitor go back up into the green. And he's like, blue only. And I'm like, crap. This sucks. And I'll just be over there acting like a kid throwing a temper tantrum, like on the rower. And yeah, it's a learning curve for me. But I'm starting to get it now. And I feel better being with it. Cardio's going up, which is where I lack. But
I should start joining you, huh?
Do you really get up 5:30 and 3:30 in the morning?
No, I stay up praying until
and drive an hour to sweat for an hour and 15 minutes.
Hey, I want it bad enough, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to close it out. Anthony, you want to close us out in prayer?
Yeah, I'll close it out. I pray my legs don't give out and my heart stays strong. Amen.
Pray for the people.
Let
we
my
bless
people
you.
go.
We pray that there was some wisdom somewhere in here for you. And we pray that you have a great week whenever you're listening to this. And that,
watch women's basketball.
Yes, it's going to be amazing. Even better next year.
Maybe not the pros, but definitely college.
Oh, and WNBA. I'm going to start watching that. Caitlin Clark's going to WNBA. I got to watch it.
Maybe. You sure she's going to WNBA?
Yes.
Positive.
Yes.
I don't know. $5 million to play for the big 3.
Okay, we're keeping going this longer.